بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. في البداية, allow me, Mr. Fence, just for some guidelines in Arabic. I'll go back in English very soon. في البداية الأخوة والأخوات أعضاء المجلس السعودي للجودة وكافة الأخوة والأخوات المهتمين بالجودة والتميز المؤسسي، نيابة عن زملائي في اللجنة التنفيذية للمجلس السعودي للجودة، أحب أن أرحب بكم جميعا في هذا اللقاء الذي يمثل ختام أنشطة وفعاليات الأسبوع الوطني للجودة، وهو الذي يعتبر أحد المبادرات الرئيسية حقيقة من مجلسكم المبارك المجلس السعودي للجودة، ويأتي هذا العام للمرة في دورته ال15 إن شاء الله تعالى. وقد يعني سعدنا جميعا في المجلس السعودي للجودة تقديم كافة الفعاليات التي امتدت من يوم الأحد الماضي وختامها اليوم احتفالا باليوم العالمي للجودة. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure today to present Mr. Fence Desmond, the chairman and CEO of Chartered Quality Institute. Mr. Fence, actually, he leads the UK professional body for quality management, CQI ERCA, which works with its more than 19,000 members to promote the value of quality management for the benefit of society. Mr. Fence represents the profession domestically with the UK's quality infrastructure in Europe through the European Organization for Quality, and globally through the CQI's work with the bodies such as the Confederation of Indian Industry Quality Institute, ERCA, Japan, and of course with the Saudi Quality Council. Actually, we consider Mr. Fence today not a guest, we consider him as a partner. So we are proud of the relationship between Saudi Quality Council and CQI. Last but not least, Mr. Fence actually early in his early career in education and educational management gave him the opportunity to live and work in Czech Republic and Egypt, and ignited his passion for people development, and that was very clearly noticed and watched during our visit last month to the CQI in London. And I'd like, on behalf of my colleagues in the Executive Committee in Saudi Quality Council, to thank you personally, Mr. Fence, for your hospitality and for your cooperation to make this visit actually valuable to everybody. One thing more, actually, we want just to announce some guidelines and procedure for the translation. As usual, we actually have our colleague, Engineer Nibal Anham. He has the professional interpretation and translation. كل اللي تحتاجوه إخواني أخواتي إنكم تضغطوا على الدائرة اللي موجودة تحت في الزوم، وبالإجراء المعتاد التحول اختيار اللانجوج انتربريتيشن واختيار اللغة العربية، وإنجوي الترجمة المهنية اللي يقدمها المهندس نبال. Mr. Fence, I think the floor is yours. Go ahead and please start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Engineer Salem. Good to see you again. I think I saw you in the SQC executive team only 2 weeks ago when you visited London, which was a very, very interesting visit. I hope from your point of view, but also from our point of view. And every time we engage I think it demonstrates that the challenges and opportunities we face in the UK are very similar to those faced in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from a quality point of view. So it's my great pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak on World Quality Day today. So this is World Quality Week and World Quality Day. Happy World Quality Day, everybody. The CQI chose as the theme for this year, quality conscience, doing the right thing. And why did we think this theme would be interesting? Well, I think we all recognize that the scope of quality is changing. How customers in society define the quality of a product or a service or an organization is changing to embrace not just the product or service itself, but also the environmental and social aspects that are relevant to that product, service, or organization. So that was the first point of view for this topic. I think the second point of view, and something I'd like to talk about today, is the people aspect. And even though we are in an age of digital transformation, organizations remain run by human beings to create value for other human beings. And I think it's important, therefore, to think about the role of the human in creating value for customers and stakeholders in organizations. Now, research has shown that the average human being makes 30,000 decisions a day. That's 2 every second while they're awake. That's a lot of decisions, isn't it? Now, some of those decisions will be based on standards and norms. For example, when there is a red traffic light, we stop the car. Some of those decisions are based on learning from experience. You may decide not to go to a certain restaurant because a friend or colleague has said it's not very good. And some of those decisions are based on ethical considerations. So if humans are making that many conscious and subconscious decisions, I think it's important that we consider how quality management and how the quality professional helps organizations and individuals at every level make the right decision. As quality professionals, we often talk about tools. We often talk about system and process. But I think there is a balance where we also need to talk about the human factor, think about culture, think about decision making, which is partly what I'll talk about today. So the big question for me today is, what is the role of the quality professional on that human side of things? And today, I've got these 6 short topics to cover with you. Firstly, the CQI, because I think it's important to understand where my organization is coming from. Second is the quality professional, what we think the quality professional is all about. Thirdly, I'd like to look at some examples of doing the wrong thing and what are some of the root causes of those, bringing some examples from the UK. Then I'd like to talk about changing expectations, these changing expectations of consumers, customers, regulators, society. and then perhaps challenge us on this idea of how we move from tool head to enabler. And by tool head, I mean somebody who's focused on quality tools. And by enabler, I mean somebody who is there to enable other people in the business to mitigate risk, to improve performance, and to create value for the organization and the customer. And a final thought on the future. So a little bit about the Chartered Quality Institute and the the International Register of Certificated Auditors. As Engineer Salem said, we're a UK professional body. We were established in 1919, established after the First War of last century at least, and established as a result of that war and experience in terms of poor production, poor reliability of defense material. Interestingly, we were started as an inspection body, engineering inspection. But of course, as humanity and quality has developed over the past 100 years, we've moved from inspection through to quality assurance, quality management, to the place we are today as we walk into the 21st century. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and as a registered charity, our mission is to champion quality management for the benefit of society. So I hope you see the link with our focus on World Quality Week. This is our opportunity every year to work with our 19,000 members in 100 countries to promote quality management as a real benefit, not just for organizations, but for the quality of life. Now, vision is one where organizations of all types thrive by providing outstanding value for customers, stakeholders, and society. And again, I hope you can see in that vision the expanding scope of quality as we see it. And finally, and importantly, on a World Quality Week theme, which is called Conscience Doing the Right Thing, we have three values which drive our decision-making: inclusion, integrity, and innovation. Inclusion is very important to us partly because we need to attract a much wider breadth of people into quality management. If you take the digital agenda, digital skills are becoming much more important. So attracting people of those backgrounds into, for example, into our profession is important. But also, the way the CQI creates value is through engaging and collaborating with our members, our 19,000 members, importantly, our 350 volunteers who run our committees and special interest groups, but also with our global partners. And that's where the Saudi Quality Council comes in. We recognize that some of these opportunities and challenges for quality are shared around the world. When we speak to our colleagues in most countries, we find a shared agenda, and we would like to be in a position where quality bodies around the world are collaborating on these particular issues of interest. Second one, of course, is integrity. We set standards as part of our Royal Charter. We set standards for the quality professional and management systems auditors, and of course, making the right decision so the right people are awarded chartered quality professional status or certification as a management systems auditor is an important part of what we do. And innovation, well, that's important because the world is changing. Customer and societal expectations are changing, and the profession and perhaps even the science of quality management will need to change. And now in that, we are building an army of quality professionals who see themselves as enablers, who are open to the future of quality management and committed to helping their organizations create value through quality management. So let's start with that quality professional. Now, one of the challenges we had from our membership community was that there was a lack of clarity over the scope of activity and the value that the quality professional and the quality function brings to organizations. So about 12 years ago, we developed the first version of our competence framework, which was thinking about the quality professional in terms of value, first of all. And we have 4 statements on the value that our members are trying to develop for their organizations. First one is protecting reputation. That is the idea of helping organizations de-risk, avoid the consequences of getting things wrong. Of course, the upside to that is enhancing reputation. This is the idea of helping organizations improve value they create for their customers and stakeholders. Third value is improving profitability. If you're in the private sector, value for money. If you're in the public or third party charity sector, excuse me. And of course, what a quality professional can do is help organizations operate more efficiently, reducing waste. And importantly, the last value that we hope quality professionals strive to achieve is transforming at pace, especially given the environments that many organizations and businesses operate in. Change and transformation is important if you're going to do all of those things above, but they need to be done well. So this is the value that our members give to organizations. And this is their scope of activity that they operate in. And I've spoken about this to the SQC community on previous visits to Saudi Arabia. Our competence framework has 5 elements. Now, 3 of those elements are technical: governance, assurance, and improvement. The idea of management systems, processes, assurance landscapes, and improvement, I hope would be easily understood by everybody in this webinar. The interesting feedback we had from industry was not a concern over the tools, governance, assurance, and improvement, but a concern that the quality professional needed to improve its understanding of the business context which sits around those tools in this model, so that the quality professional and the quality function could address those tools, those technical elements, to the business strategy and the business context. The other interesting feedback we had from industry was on leadership and the need for quality professionals to reposition themselves as enablers of value creation within a business. Some people may call this the soft skills of professionalism. Now, you might find it interesting to know that in the UK, at a recent meeting I was at of professional bodies, we discussed society's perception of professionals generally in the UK. And the general agreement was that society generally had no concern over competence or body of knowledge or the technical tools. So, for example, a qualified lawyer, a chartered engineer, a chartered quality professional, it was expected and assumed that that person was competent in their particular field. The concern mostly came from behavior and concerns that when professionals did something wrong, it was not a lack of competence, it was a lack of the right ethical and behavioral attributes. And of course, all of the CQI members and registered certificated auditors operate to a code of conduct and are subject to complaints from organizations if they feel that their behavioral ethics is in question. Now let me move on to doing the wrong thing and talk about a few examples from the UK. And these examples are taken from disasters. And when there is a disaster or a quality failure in the UK, it is quite normal and quite common for there to be a public inquiry where evidence is collected, causes are analysed, and changes in legislation or standards are recommended. I'm going to talk about three of them. Now, the three reports on the right-hand side, one of them is from a hospital, the Mid Staffordshire NHS Foundation Trust, and looked into a report of very high death rates within that hospital. The second one is the Nimrod report, which was an investigation into a military aircraft that crashed, killing a large transport aircraft, which crashed and killed all the personnel on it. And the third one is an inquiry into a terrible fire we had in London a few years ago in a residential tower block, which killed very, very many people. Now, I'm not going to tell the stories of these failures, but I think it's interesting to consider what are the common UK inquiry findings from these failures. Now, we as quality professionals will not be surprised by these. Inquiries commonly find poor governance. This can be at a legislative or regulation level. This can be at a sector level, or this can be at an organizational level. But poor governance in terms of setting standards, good governance assurance and improvement in our language was absent. Second common finding is a lack of transparency. And of course, that means a lack of data, a lack of sharing of data, a lack of investigation of data. The third common finding is a lack of competence. And we all know that competence is vitally important in any process that's designed to create value for an organization or its customer. But I think one of the most interesting is the fourth item, poor culture. And all of these disasters, these quality failures, identified poor leadership when it came to setting expectations for decision making, poor behavior, which was reflected into the decision making made in those organizations or those systems. Now, you might argue that a tool head, somebody focused on method and quality tools, would be very comfortable dealing with these ideas of poor governance, data and transparency, and competence. And my question to you is, especially given our topic this year of quality conscience and doing the right thing, to what extent should we and are we focusing on the human individually and as a culture? Now, quality culture research findings have identified 4 critical factors for good quality culture, and none of these will be a surprise to you. Leadership emphasis. I don't think I need to explain that. The second one I think is interesting, message credibility. This is the concern that the leadership emphasis, policy and messages that the organization gives in terms of ethical behavior, doing the right thing, are confused by other messages where profitability, getting the product out to the customer on time, these kinds of things actually start to confuse people and reduce the credibility of quality emphasis and quality messages from leadership. The third element is peer involvement, and the need for that leadership emphasis to be reflected in the involvement of people, the ownership people, the accountability and the responsibility of people, so people can feel they have the freedom to raise issues when there is a concern that the organization may do the wrong thing, and the ownership to be able to make the right decisions and to improve things. Now you can see the CEB webinar we ran some time ago made the statement, of course, there's a financial benefit to a good quality culture in terms of bottom line, but also they found that a true culture of quality and the 4 elements on the left-hand side translated into people inside the organization and outside the organization actually observing, seeing quality focused actions, hearing people talking about quality and feeling that culture of quality around them. So I suppose the next question is, what is the role of the quality profession in all this? You may be aware of the 3 lines of defense model, where, of course, the first line of defense in terms of managing risk and performance is the organization itself. Second line is those functions, those enabling functions, safety, quality, finance, that oversee or specialize in risk management and compliance. And the third line of defense is the regulatory oversight or your third-party assessment oversight. And of course, many quality professionals will sit in that second or third line of defense, perhaps considering themselves as an oversight function, but perhaps they should be thinking of themselves more in terms of an enabling function to help the first line operators, process owners, functional heads develop the tools and the skills and the culture to manage their own risk, manage their own systems and processes, manage their own learning, and manage their own improvement. So let me move on to the scope of expectations from customers and stakeholders to do the right thing. We've identified, as part of the CQI strategy, 2 high impact, high uncertainty trends and 2 high impact, high certainty trends that will affect organizations, the quality of product service that they provide, and of course, the quality profession. The first one is technology, its impact on society, organizations, and workers. And in this context, we must consider how customers and consumers expect to interact with organizations digitally, how they create value with and from organizations. And of course, from a quality point of view, quality function and the quality professional needs to consider how can it help organizations de-risk and enable value from these digital transformations, but also how can it use digital and data to deliver good governance and assurance and improvement within their organizations. The second high uncertainty, high impact trend is shifts in global power and the impact on barriers to trade and supply chains. Now, of course, we saw this recently with the COVID pandemic, but we saw it before that with changes in political stances, for example, between the USA and China, and of course, very recently with the war in Ukraine. And of course, this creates shifts in markets and supply chains and has the potential to have impact on quality of product and service provided by organizations. Now, the high certainty, high impact trends are demographics and societal expectations. So certainly in the UK, I think maybe Saudi Arabia is unique in not having an aging population, but most developed and many developing economies have an aging population, declining birth rates, and a very serious shortfall in skills. And certainly in the UK, that is translating into a real lack of talent and people coming through into quality roles, but also into engineering and other roles. And finally, social expectations. And this is the idea that how quality is defined is much broader than it has been traditionally to embrace these ideas of sustainability. So on the left here, you have those 4 macro trends for quality. The top 3 concerns from quality leaders is the next level of challenges that our profession is considering. That's in the middle column here. The first one is the skills deficit, and we are seeing many organizations struggle to recruit and retain quality professionals. The second challenge is a much older challenge, and that's the one of creating education, understanding, competence, and buy-in from other functions and other people in the organization. And the third one is the question of what does the quality profession do with the technology agenda? Now, we ran a survey of our members in January 2022, and I was pleased to see that 86% of our members believe that they can help their businesses to deliver ESG goals. So I think there has been a shift in the profession in terms of broadening this idea of quality and sustainability within the profession. I think that's a very positive move. And what we observe this year is that understanding of the role that the quality professional can play in the sustainability agenda is now translating into examples of how quality professionals and quality functions are engaging with this agenda. In the same survey, we asked them about technology. And again, I was pleased to see that 75% of members agree that unless quality management professionals understand and acquire new knowledge, skills, and behaviors in this area of digital transformation, they could get left behind. So our membership, 100 countries, very much has these two ideas on its agenda of sustainability and technology as we move forwards. So what does this mean from this idea of moving from somebody focused on tools to somebody focused on enablement and helping organizations to make the right decisions? Well, for us, it's very much about that central part of the competence framework, which is called leadership. And on this slide, you can see the 8 elements of quality leadership that we think apply to quality professionals at every level. The quality advocate. So this is the ability to articulate the benefits and value of quality management, to be able to articulate the strategic imperative and the management system and the quality strategy that the organization is employing. The stakeholder advocate, this is about acting as the conscience in an organization and being brave to make interventions where customer or stakeholder requirements are not addressed. And this second one is very important to our theme of helping organizations make the right decision. The third element is the systems thinker. And this is very important for the quality profession as one of the few people in an organization who can look across business functions, departments, and provide and promote a holistic view to all of those people in terms of its purpose and the outputs it's trying to collaboratively achieve. The fact-based thinker, going back to those findings from the UK, those UK investigations into major quality failures, you'll remember I talked about transparency. So the fact-based thinker element is important in helping organizations make sure they are making decisions based on factual evidence, and I think also importantly sharing those data on performance and risk. The next one, the quality planner. This has become, in my mind, more important for a variety of reasons. And we are observing within the CQI membership community a focus on this idea of shifting left. So shifting quality into the planning process to help organizations prevent problems and de-risk products and processes at the front end, rather than dealing with problems as they occur further down the line. The last three I'll take together, because coaching, motivating, and collaborating is very much about the skills of helping people develop the knowledge, encouraging them to engage, to deploy that knowledge and make the right decisions, and helping people in organizations collaborate together to plan for success and deliver value.
Excuse me, sorry, Mr. Fence.
Yeah.
I'd like just to remind everybody here that if they have any question, just drop it in the Q&A box.
Thank you very much, Salim.
الأخوة الأخوات رجاء لو في أسئلة حطوها في ال Q&A box. And you can proceed. We can go for the next 10 minutes if you.
Excellent. Yeah, I have a few minutes left.
No problem.
Thank you, Engineer Salim. This document, which is freely available to you on the CQI website, is a document outlining the competence framework elements and includes this diagram of how those 8 quality leadership skills interact. You will see that the stakeholder advocate brings the outside into the organization, helping the organization think systemically, make decisions based on fact, and importantly, plan for success. All of those elements are supported by coaching, motivating, and collaborating, and result in this idea of advocating outputs on behalf of stakeholders. Now, in that document, you may be interested in testing yourself. And at the back of that document is a tool you can use to look at more effective practice and less effective practice for each of those leadership skills. And I give an example here. This is something you can use personally to develop your professional development plans, something you might want to use with your quality teams. So what does this mean for the future? I said I'd talk about the future. So in terms of quality management and the quality profession, I think making the right decision will be broader in scope. The scope of quality will and is embracing digital and sustainability factors. Trust and guardianship, protecting reputation will continue to be important, and perhaps will be more important as those customer and society expectations are increasing. Quality will need to be positioned as adaptable and agile. We cannot have a position where quality is seen as preventing the business from developing and operating. Quality will need to be strategic in very competitive environments, especially over the next few years when we face economic headwinds. If you've got no quality, you've got no business, and it needs to be a strategic imperative. And of course, quality will need to be tech savvy or technically competent to support and enable an effective digital transformation strategy. Now, I think there's some very positive observations I would make over the past 10 years. What I observe is many more younger people coming into the quality profession, many more women coming into the quality profession, and many more people with different backgrounds coming in to the quality profession. And we need people with those digital, those psychological backgrounds to come in if we're going to achieve a future of quality that I just described on that right-hand side. One of our members, Ryan Renard, wrote this, and I think this is particularly encouraging. And he writes, "The profession is reaching a natural tipping point. Quality is becoming a career choice. It is becoming a place to make a difference through change, through proactive leadership, not staunchly setting boundaries and defending limits." And it's these people that we need coming into the profession who see themselves not as toolheads, but as enablers to help organizations make the right decision. Finally, I said I'd talk a little bit about the future. Now, is this the future of the quality professional? You may have seen the Boston Dynamics robot doing test and inspection type activities and feeding those data back to computers to analyze. And some people say, yes, this is the future. There will be no audit. There will be no test and inspection completed by human beings. But of course, that's not true. What we will see is human organizations continuing to be run for other humans, and the quality professional may not need to collect so much data because computers and robots are doing it, but they will need to be able to enable organizations to plan products and processes, understand performance, and improve. Now, next year, we'll be updating our competence framework. Under our 5 competence areas, members will find, in fact, we will make this publicly available to everybody in the world on our website because that's part of our charitable mission. You will find 18 next level competencies, which I shall put up here. So for example, under improvement, you'll see 3 next level competencies: delivering sustainable improvement, managing change, and innovating and creating opportunities. You'll find 4 levels of competence, moving from tier 1, which is understanding and awareness, to tier 4, which is the ability to lead or develop or advise in a certain area. Under each of the 18 tiers and each of the 4 elements, you will find the competence sets in terms of sub-competencies and knowledge. And you'll be able to complete an assessment approach, which will give you your competence, your competence map, enable quality professionals and quality teams to plan their development and to benchmark quality competence maps for a particular role, for example, quality manager, against their own competence assessment output. Now, interestingly, the leadership skills have changed a little bit here in terms of how we establish quality professionals as leaders. But throughout all of those 5 areas, we have a number of new competence relating to digital quality. I think there are 45 new knowledge and skill competencies, and about 30 relating to sustainability, social and environmental elements. And these, of course, will provide excellent CPD for our members who wish to move forwards into that future of a wider scope of quality, but of course who are focused on the important leadership elements where they want to position themselves as enablers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fence. It actually was very valuable and rich information. Thank you for being with us again. And really, I enjoyed the content of the presentation. We had a couple of questions here, but before we go to the question, I want just to share with you some slide regarding, I know some of our audience trying just to give the attendees certificate. Please, you need just to capture this code, and by this, actually this link will lead you to the procedure whereby you can complete your payment process and get your certification, inshallah. Second news we have, because for the time of this Quality Week and National Quality Week, Saudi Quality Council is introducing a discount of 30% for the SQC box we have. Hopefully this will help to enrich the Arabic library in the quality field. Thank you again, Mr. Fence, for your presentation. I have a couple of questions here. We could start with the question regarding the Quality Week theme. It's all about quality conscience and doing the right thing. What about doing the right thing right? Because this actually represents the second corner of quality definition. And what do you think about, was it better to be part of the Quality Week theme, doing the right thing right?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think the quality profession often focuses on right first time.
Yeah.
And of course, that's very important. I think the question we're trying to answer is, especially in this context of digitalization and sustainability, are you doing the right thing? Because we know that, for example, if you automate a bad process, the process may continually, it might be right first time, but it's not an efficient or effective process. We know that depending on your organizational maturity, you need to have a certain understanding of standards of work and consistency in doing them before you move on to considering, we may be doing it right first time, but how do we improve? How do we do the right thing? So I think there's a subtle difference that you can consider. And also, if you're working for a larger organization and you're in the corporate quality function, you may consider positioning the quality function corporately as helping the organization to do the right thing. And then at a business unit or a functional level, it's, are they doing the right, are they doing it right first time? So I think there is a subtle definition of, being clear on what you want to achieve, isn't it? Because there's nothing worse. And we've all been to organizations where they're very good at doing something, but it's entirely the wrong thing to do.
You're right. What somebody is seeing it as right, maybe it's wrong for somebody else.
Yeah.
Let's go for you have to talk about the quality leadership 8 skills.
Yeah.
And the question saying, I think the most difficult and important quality leadership 8 skills is system thinker. How to develop this important skill in our quality teams?
Well, I'd say I'd give 2 responses to the important element, because important depends on context. So, and your business context and your business strategy, of course. So that will depend from context to context. But I think then there is the question of how to develop that thinking is a very good one. And I think if you're thinking about that individually and you have a CPD plan, a professional development plan, then there are plenty of courses that I'm sure are on offer on systems thinking if you want to learn the knowledge element of it. And the same for developing your quality teams. I think on a more strategic level, what we would like to see is that these ideas of systems thinking and quality planning are built into the educational courses, not just for quality professionals, but for other professionals. So we need to be educating the next generation of engineers who understand systems thinking, you know, from the point of view of taking a product from design into production and supply. And the same with healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
You know, a doctor understands very well the human system, so has a good understanding of systems thinking, you know. But of course, most doctors will go and work in a factory where patients come in, processes happen, and they go out again. So I think for me that, and I was one of the challenges our profession has is this idea of buy-in, getting the rest of the organization to embrace quality management and think in a quality way. So I think the biggest challenge is getting it right in the front of education. And it's interesting to note that in Japan, I think at quite a young level in schools, they have a program where they teach children very simple problem-solving tools.
Good.
So I think this is the answer in the long term.
If I link it with some other competencies, like what about skills and competencies need for quality 4.0?
Skills and well, yeah, that's that. Well, there. I can't remember the exact number, but we've identified 40 of them. Now, I think we as a profession need to think about stopping this term quality 4.0 because it makes people think about industry 4.0 and smart factories. But of course, the real question for quality professionals is how do we enable organizations to create value using digital, and how do we use digital? Now, 3 or 4 years ago, I think the profession was having a discussion, for example, should quality professionals understand how to code software? You know? So it was very, very unclear. I think that conversation, I hope, is finished now because, of course, quality professionals don't need to know how to code software. So I think maybe this would be another discussion for another webinar with the CQI and CQI. But I think broadly, if you think about it in terms of our current competence framework, a quality professional, quality function on the context side of things will need to understand what is happening in my sector, what is my organization's digital strategy. So they will need to be able to understand that and talk that language. And then they will need to understand digital tools. So for example, we have organizations that are developing digital twins for construction projects to help them plan and deliver at lower cost and higher speed and more reliability. So the question is, what tools does the quality professional need to understand? And I think then there is a third piece, and we are currently publishing case studies on these. The second case study was published this week, which I will share with the executive team. But the third thing for me was the collaboration piece and the question of who does the quality profession collaborate with? And we have to be able to collaborate with the data scientist and the technologist. And in order to help them. And our first case study, in fact, was about the work between a quality professional and a data scientist. So I think there is some knowledge required, but I think it's more the skill of knowing where to make the intervention and where to collaborate.
Yeah, good. There is a question here from Omar Jaradat. He's saying, since we're talking about the digitalization, how far the traditional quality of service is shifting now during today's digital transformation and beyond. For example, empathy.
For example, what?
Empathy, he's saying empathy. for example.
Empathy. Yeah, it's
yeah, he's trying just to say maybe some of the traditional quality of service cannot be solved by digitization or digital.
Yeah, I think, well, yes, the digitalization of service and also the serviceization of product. I think that it's both, because what we observe is, you know, there's a large European light manufacturer who used to sell light bulbs, you know. Now they don't sell light bulbs, they sell light to hospitals and airports and train stations. So they're selling a service. So that is a shift in the product side. But I think you're right, there's a shift in the service side. Some of that's driven by consumer expectations, isn't it? Because you know, we've got the Football World Cup coming up, and historically, Engineer Salam, you and I used to engage with football outside with a ball.
Yeah.
But these days, people engage with it on computer games and websites and YouTube and all kinds of other ways, and discussion rooms. So I think there's a lot of value and a lot of competitive advantage to be chased in the digitalization of service, but there's also a lot of risk, and we see that when digital services are developed without co-collaboration with the customer, because of course there's a variety of customers, and we're talking about the demographics, and certainly in the UK, you know, there can't be a one size fits all, because we've got older people who simply can't use the technology for accessing healthcare or banking services. So I think this is where the quality professional has a role to play in voice of customer, in product and service design, and in encouraging collaboration between, you know, the technologists, the data scientists, the call center people, and all this kind of thing.
Good. I think talking about the digitalization and quality 4.0 and industrial revolution is, going to take a long time. But the last thing here, I want just to close this angle, talking about this issue, by the question from Nasreen Fahad. Nasreen saying, in the future, does the company or are the company gonna be depending on the robots to do their businesses? What do you think about this?
I think yes. I think if you look at the work we've done and shared with you on Quality 4.0, and if you also look at the future of work studies that are published every year, the future of work studies basically say that computers and robots can do work. They can do work in the same way that, you know, the horse did work for farmers thousands of years ago, and then the tractor did more work for farmers. So more work can be done. I think the question, and more quality work can be done, you know, more quality work can be done. We have an example that I found on Monday of an engineering firm using machine learning and artificial intelligence to look at non-conformities and predict and identify root cause and predict performance. So some processes that maybe would take people a long time in a room with flip charts can be automated. But the question is, what is best done by the computer and the robot, and what is best done by the human? That's always been the question in technology, hasn't it?
Yeah, you're right, 100%. I have a question here saying about, you have mentioned during your presentation that Saudi Arabia has have the privilege of aging. Yeah.
Or not aging.
Yeah, I mean, not aging, the senior. So yeah. We have almost 60% of our nation are young generation.
Yeah.
So how we, as Saudi quality professional, utilize the advantage of this to have young society in Saudi Arabia to the benefit of quality movement in our country?
Well, I think that there's a really good opportunity because you know the young Saudi Arabians I've met are, you know, they're very keen on the Saudi Vision 2030, very ambitious, extremely well educated, and very and very like the young quality professionals from the UK I'm talking about, in the sense that their vision is not to keep the shop open. Their vision is to improve the shop. It is to make life better and be successful. And I think if the Saudi quality movement can identify those people with those attitudes and behaviors, you can train them on governance assurance and improvement, on quality planning, on management systems, on root cause analysis. You can train them on that. But it's very difficult to find people, young people in quantity with those behaviors and skills that you need for the quality profession. So I think you're in a very good place there. But I suspect it's the same in the UK, in that when young people are thinking about their future careers, you know, project managers, you know, there's some more fashionable roles in people's minds. So I think we need to make the role fashionable, and not talk about it in terms of the tools, but in terms of the scope and the impact.
Okay. So talking about the same issue here, I know the new generation, especially in these days, looking for the income and the return and the earnings of the profession itself to live in a good position with their families.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? What's your message to the quality profession?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good in return or good in income?
Yes, it's a. I can't talk about Saudi Arabia, but yes, in the UK, and increasingly because of the skill shortage, so that is driving salaries up.
Yeah.
I think it's. I think you can. It's well rewarded in that sense financially. I think it's particularly attractive to people that want to go everywhere in a business, focus on performance and improvement. It's very, very attractive to people with that mindset. And what I would say is that we should not be afraid of people coming into the quality professional for a short time, for 5 years. If we've got people who come in for 5 years, learn about it, become infected with our enthusiasm for it, and they go out into other functions, into engineering, into purchasing, into operations, then this spreads the message. And I'm very encouraging of organizations that have have that flow of people going around the business from quality.
Yeah, good. So still we're talking about the quality profession. One of your slides, you talked about the policing role of a quality professional.
Yeah.
So any recommendation from your side, please, how we can enhance the role of improvement, the role of helping the company and helping the corporation, instead of doing the policing role.
Yeah, I think that's another good webinar topic, isn't it? But I think what our members are saying is, number one, simplify quality. Don't. It's not a magic book. You know, we are not the magicians.
Yeah.
So simplify it. That means talking about it in language that the rest of the business understands. So I think that's the output element. But I think the second element is and it becomes a human element where you're understanding the context and pain of a process owner or a department, and position yourself as there to, first of all, understand, but second, enable and encourage the improvement side of things. Yeah. So for me, it's a lot about language.
Good. Thank you. The last, just a reminder for everybody here, please, we need your just cooperation to fill this poll, survey. I will have the last question from Ms. Manal Al-Marwani. I think she's saying how to fill the gap between quality and excellence and the actual practices. Sometimes there's you find a company doing excellent job with theories and practices and concepts, but the actual practice is totally different. How we can fill this gap?
Well, I think it's a journey, isn't it? Because you know, and again, you go back to the context of the organization and ask, well, where is this organization, and what is its strategy, and what is its aspirations? And you may be at that first level on the excellence ladder of just bringing things into control and bringing some data and understanding into it. But I think it then becomes a question of maturity and maturity development. So you're moving from compliance with process and regulations through, you know, good practice up into exemplary practice. But that I think is a journey.
Yeah, it is. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fence. On behalf of my colleagues in the Executive Committee in Saudi Quality Council, we would like just to present a small gift for you. And this is actually a small thing against what you are doing for the Saudi Quality Council. Please accept it with all appreciation for it. Thank you.
That's very, very kind of you. And I accept it with real gratitude and pleasure. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Engineer Salim.
Thank you. And last but not least, everybody here, we just remind you that we're going to have our coming activities in December. We will have a workshop and we're going to have a seminar about the winners of Quality Manager Excellence Award. And we're going to have the number 9th and the closing lecture in 2022. All details will come forward, inshallah. Thank you again, Mr. Fence, and thank you for everybody.